Guess what? They didn't raise the tax rate, but they still raised our taxes. It's time for some straight talk. I'm Bunker Bob Steinhagen, and this is The Bunker Bob Show. Yes, and a good Friday morning to you. And yes, that's right. They did not raise our taxes, so to speak, our tax rate, I should say. But officially, they did raise our taxes, and that may be confusing to some people, and I'll try to explain that. More importantly, I'll talk about the ramifications, and we'll highlight the ramifications of this decision by the City Council next week when I have the Doctor of Finance, Scott Turnbull, with me, and also Adrian Balcom. So the two of them have already committed that they will join me, and we will talk through what this really means. It sounds like, hey, we won. This sounds like a good thing. And when you think about it, they were considering 16.5 cent tax rate. And so the fact that they set a 15-cent tax rate, which is the current tax rate, seems like we may have won this battle, right? I mean, that's what people are already saying. Hey, we won. We don't have to worry about that. But the issue really is bigger than that. And I'm going to explain very quickly why this is a tax rate increase. And as I've said time and again, the City Council does not want to focus on debt. They want to focus on spending money. So they have taken money away from the debt, and by doing that, they put it into M&O. And when you do that, when you dedicate money to the M&O, the maintenance and operation of the city, you're basically spending money. And so because they're not putting it into debt reduction, which basically is not spending money, it's saving money. It would be saving taxpayers 4%. They want to try and spend more money. So they've effectively expanded the size and scope of our city government, but you wouldn't really know that if you didn't take a closer look. And that's an issue that when I have Scott, Dr. Turnbull, and Adrian with me, the Iron Lady herself, when I have them with me next week, we're going to talk through what all of these numbers really mean and why this is a tax rate and why this is a true tax increase and why the rollback rate is not outrageous at all. Why going to a rollback may be a good solution for citizens to consider. But I want to focus today on what is really happening and who is really running our city. Because when you look at this vote, and I'm going to show you today, I'm going to show you everything that went into the discussion and went into this vote for the budget and for the tax rate. And when you see it for yourself, you're going to scratch your head. Now, see, the state law establishes that any discussion, any deliberation between the city council and among the city council has to be done in an open session, so that it ensures transparency, so that deals are not made behind closed doors. It's going to beg the question when you see all of the video for yourself, when you see the actions of the city council, how exactly did they deliberate? So I'm not going to belabor that point. I'm going to let you see for yourself, and we're going to start with agenda item 6.4, which is setting the budget on the agenda, and that is basically what happened. So essentially, the mayor calls out and says, "This is item 6.4. It is setting the agenda." Setting the budget, and I need a motion for that. And here is that back and forth.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve the budget, adjusting the budget to reflect a 15-cent tax rate from the 165 tax rate for the FY 2020 budget starting October 1st, 2019 and ending September 30th, 2019.
I think you're on the wrong one. We're talking about the budget first.
I know that.
I know what you mean. Would you say it one more time for me, though, just so I
Okay,
can get the
that's
language
fine.
right?
I move to approve the budget, adjusting the budget to reflect the 15-cent tax rate from the 165 tax rate for FY 2020.
I'll second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, so as you notice, Lorna Kippett, basically, who I have said time and again, she's an East Coast liberal. She and her husband, Mark, have tried to project themselves as conservatives. But it was Lorna Kippett who seconded the motion to increase the tax rate to 16.5 cents without really, and she even said, I don't understand this budget. We showed you that on another show. And so here you have Lorna Kippett. She wants to change the budget, but she's a political animal. And this is the way politicians do things. They want to project this idea that we're lowering the budget, the tax rate. This is a budget motion. This is supposed to be a motion on the budget, not a motion on the tax rate. But she doesn't want to do it that way. She wants to make it look like she's in favor of a lower tax rate. Now, here's the thing that I was trying to bring up a moment ago when I said that there's not been a lot of discussion about this. Understand, almost no discussion has taken place. The city council has had 3 meetings. One of them an all-day retreat lasted over 8 hours. They had 2 other budget meetings, special meetings, and none of them did they record. They didn't record them. They didn't broadcast them. Now I broadcast one of them, and I broadcast a quarter of the other one. And what you see in that special session is these members of city council, they are lost. They are not discussing. They are not deliberating. Scott Turnbull, Dr. Turnbull, when he's here next week, hopefully I'll remember to ask him, did they really deliberate? Did they discuss and talk about these things? The answer is, my understanding is most of those discussions were more about questions to the accountant, the city accountant. So here's the thing. You have Lorna Kippett who voted or seconded a few weeks ago to increase the tax rate to 16.5 cents. And now she's motioning to set it at 15 cents. Notice there's no discussion, but if you want to have a deliberation, it's a free-form discussion. You kind of talk amongst yourselves. You talk, and you have this back and forth. But that's not what happens. So watch as Lorna Kippett puts together a prepared statement. And my question to that is, was she able to prepare a statement about a tax rate when the outcome is uncertain? So listen for yourself and you be the judge.
There's no discussion?
No, I'd like to just discuss it just a little bit. I'm not really off the top of my head kind of speaker, but I've written a couple things down. First off, I would like to commend the mayor and the city staff for their work last year on the budget. 2019 was the first year for a fire department, and last year this time we had a fire chief, 3 trucks, and a grant. They've come far. I think we do have a way to go, and I personally don't want to get there the easy way, which is why I recommended the maintenance of the 15-cent tax rate. I think the 15 cent achieves a lot of what we want to do. It's been a long road to get there, starting with the first budget workshop, as we were reminded at one of our citizen comments that we looked like we weren't sure what we were doing. Well, that was the first opportunity that we had a chance to look at the budget, and that's what you get when you have a workshop. I think next year, Lisa has spoken to us, we're going to take a little bit more time to look at the budget, give ourselves a little earlier time to start the process. But I do want to continue the fund balance policy with the reserves that we've got into effect. I do believe we've got a commitment for animal control, code enforcement. We have many ordinances out there. I think we need to enforce them. And I think the budget with an adjusted rate of 15 cents will get us where we need to go.
So that's what Lorna Kippett's her argument that she's making. That is her deliberation. That is her argument. And boy, just buckle up for this discussion, because this is going to be obviously. I mean, this is a big issue. So clearly, you know, when they think about when they talk about the budget vote, I mean, this has got to be a big point, right? So let's listen to the discussion and the back and forth that this very transparent city council wants to make. How about that?
All right, if there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. This one's a roll call.
Aye.
Aye. Show that unanimous.
So that was about it. That's the sum total of weeks of deliberation and work. I want to highlight a couple of things. First of all, Lorna Kippett said that they have 3 fire trucks. No, they've got 7. She didn't want to talk about that. She didn't talk about any answers. She didn't talk about any numbers. Notice there's nothing about her statement that gives clarity as to why 16.5 cents seemed to be necessary, and why. And don't forget, the mayor of McLendon-Chisholm, Keith Short, put out a document basically arguing why it was so important to increase the tax rate, why this was essential. Then they had a presentation, right, that they had prepared. But at this city council meeting that night, they did not present it. This was after, obviously, I had, I guess I took them to town a little bit and took issue with a lot of the things that they were saying. Of course, they didn't want to talk about all of the points that I had made, because I had basically debunked a lot of what their arguments were trying to make. A lot of the arguments that they had made, we basically refuted them. We used actual numbers, and that's, I guess, the primary difference between this show and what I do here and what the city council is doing. The question is, who is running these numbers? Who is making these decisions, and exactly when did these decisions get made? But hey, let's not stop there. We have more to see. So that was the budget discussion. Now it's time to kind of look at what they did when it came to the actual tax rate. So this is the discussion that they had when it came to, this is the agenda item 6.5, setting the tax rate. Watch this.
I move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of the rate of 15 cents. Then those numbers, I don't know what that would be. Increase in the tax rate, and that the ordinance levying this tax rate be approved.
Yeah, so that's it. That's the motion for 15 cents. Notice no other discussion took place. None. Zero discussion. When Lorna Kippett made her statement, no one else said anything else. So the mayor just moved forward with the vote. And then, of course, we don't want to forget all of those budget meetings. Mayor Short was absent for one of those. He came in late on another one. So we're talking about how exactly are they making these decisions, and why? So Mr. Bloom makes the motion to approve this or a 15-cent tax rate, which, as he states, which is true, they're raising the tax rate. They're raising taxes, even though the tax rate stays the same. Why? Because they're not focusing on debt. As, I don't know, conservatives like me and Scott Turnbull and Adrian Balcom, Wayne Orchard, Jim Herron and Sim Woodham, we focused on debt. So there you go. So here's the discussion. So Jim Bloom made the motion, right? So here is the discussion on that motion.
All right, I've got the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion amongst council? There's no discussion, then it's again a roll call vote. Ms. Trudy?
Aye.
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 Show that unanimous?
Yeah, it's unanimous, all right. And no discussion. This is the setting of the tax rate. They've raised your taxes, and that because they've instead of putting it on debt, they're putting it in spending. So while on paper it looks as though their budget is not as much as last year, in fact, they've increased spending significantly. And we'll talk more about the specifics of that on the next show. Well, of course, we have another agenda item, 6.6. Now, this may sound redundant, but since they are increasing the tax rate, they have to have the ratification of the tax rate increase. And so this is that vote. Maybe we'll get some discussion on that one. I don't know.
All right, do I have a motion on this?
Mr. Mayor, oh, go ahead.
Okay. All right, do I have a second? No. Oh, he can.
I didn't know.
So I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance to the City of McLendon-Chisholm to ratify property tax increase reflected in the fiscal year 1920 budget and providing an effective date of
I'm sorry,
when's the effective date?
October 1.
Yeah, October 1. All right, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second.
Yeah, so I didn't play the audio on that, by the way. That audio dropped for some reason. I don't know why. But there you have the illegitimately appointed council member Nathan Hodges making the motion to ratify this. Maybe again, here's the motion. Jim Bloom seconded it, and so we probably need to see some reason why they did that. So let's see if we get some answers on that.
A second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Because this one did not need a roll call, is that correct?
So ordinance.
Right.
Didn't need a roll call.
All right, moving on to 7.1.
Moving on. That's does that sound familiar? Does what is happening with our city council, does any of this sound familiar? Don't forget, folks, that the mayor and the city council did the exact same thing when they appointed Nathan Hodges to fulfill the unexpired term of a council member that had resigned. And don't forget, the mayor of McLendon-Chisholm asked citizens if they were interested in being considered to submit their interest. Of course, 4 people did submit their interest. None of them, and not one of them, was Nathan Hodges. Of course, none of the 4 people received any feedback from or any response from the mayor, from Keith Short. And then on the day that the appointment was to be made, on the night of that appointment, the mayor or the city council pushes through a different candidate, one that had never before been discussed, or one that had never before been vetted by the council. They didn't know. Of course, we know this. I've already talked about it on a different show, that as William Dahl said on one of his shows, he mistakenly argues that the mayor and appoints and the city council approves, which is absolutely not true. That is not how this action takes place. The city council is supposed to deliberate. They're supposed to vet this person. They're supposed to have discussion. They're supposed to have nomination speeches. They're supposed to do all of these things that we did back when I was on the council. And yet none of these things took place. Of course, Nathan Hodges, as I've talked about before in another show, Nathan Hodges violated the Texas Open Meetings Act by going behind my back as a city council. He was the mayor then. And trying to get his friend Mark Kippett put on the city council, unbeknownst to me, talking to all of the other city councilmen, violating the Texas Open Meetings Act, trying to get them to agree to put Mark Kippett on the city council as opposed to Adrian Balcom, who I had been endorsing. That all came out at that meeting, but that's who Nathan Hodges is. And of course, he resigned from office. Don't forget that. He resigned from office. And that's why I became mayor, because I was elected in a landslide election in the largest voter turnout in the history of our city by a factor of 3. And the city council unanimously put me in to fulfill Mr. Hodges' seat on the council, and which I did. Of course, so many people, including the Nathan Hodges and Mark Kippett's, they loved to talk about how I was an appointed mayor. Well, at least I was appointed legitimately. This is, just to remind you, just so that you don't forget, this is the entire vote. This is the discussion. This is the first time, by the way, that Nathan Hodges' name has ever come up at city council meeting, ever. And the 4 people who submitted their request to be considered, not one of them. Well, I'll let you see. Remember this?
Moving on to 6.4, discussion and action regarding recommendation by the mayor to appoint Nathan Hodges to fill council member place 2's vacancy and serve until the next municipal election. All right. My recommendation to council is to appoint Mr. Hodges to fulfill the rest of Mr. Larkin's term. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept your recommendation, I guess, as
Yes.
appointing
Appointment.
Mr. Hodges to fill council place 2.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion on that? If not, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Show that unanimous.
That's it. That was the sum total of that appointment to fulfill and to place someone to fulfill an empty seat on city council. So it really begs the question, folks, who is actually running our city? Where are these decisions being made? Aren't these fair questions to ask? I think so. We should all be demanding how it is they could come up with the budget that they did, which is, by the way, and we're going to talk about the specifics of this budget and why it is a tax and spend budget. Even though your tax rate remains the same, the spending that they're putting us that they're moving toward, and the obligation that this city council wants to put the city under, so that once you get big government in place, it's almost impossible to get rid of. Ronald Reagan talked about the first role of government is to protect itself. Bureaucrats will do nothing, will make it impossible for anyone to get rid of them. And so we are creating a monster of big government under the illusion that we've just kept the tax rate the same. That's just simply not true. And so I'm going to encourage you that next week that you will come back with me. I'll hopefully post that as soon as I know when I have scheduled both the Dr. Turnbull and the Iron Lady Adrian Balcom, and try to get that up so you have a little bit of a heads up and you watch it live if you'd like, or you can just watch the video or the recording. That's why, if you're not subscribed to this channel, you should be, and the reason is really simple. It gives you a notification when I'm going live. Unfortunately today, I think a lot of people got notified that I was going live at 10:30. I had a few technical issues that I had to fix, so I didn't go on till 11. But I updated that, and hopefully that doesn't happen very often. But I do hope that you'll subscribe. I hope you'll hit the like button if this was helpful to you, and I do hope that you'll come back and see me next week. So until then, I'm Bunker Bob. I hope that you have a great weekend. Have a great one. Bye-bye.